Hello to everyone. I am V. Srinivas Rao, also known as VSR. I'm the Chairman and Managing Director for BT and BT. We offer lean digital solutions. I'm also the Chairman for Smart Cities Working Group under Institution of Engineering and Technologies. Today, we are going to have a very interesting discussion on disaster recovery as a service. And that's, I think, in the situation what we have been facing today, and also in general, there are so many initiatives being started by different organizations. So just to set the context, we are living in hyper-connected world. That means what? It's not just human beings today. There are so many smart things, cars, machines, equipment, then robots. In shop floor, you have further tools and other systems are there. So humans and these smart, intelligent things have been working together. This is where the hyper-connected world. Then technologies have been really helping in converging the physical and digital world in the first time in the history. Technology was only an enabler. Then COVID-19 has exposed the strengths and also the weaknesses of the business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans of various organizations. I'm sure there are so many lessons learned and also the best practices. Remote working has become a norm due to COVID-19. I think you have extended workforce, your own employees, your suppliers, your partners, and in the gig economy, you have some external experts are also working. Of course, you have cyber attacks. So in this scenario, any disruption to the business, whether due to human-made disasters or natural disasters like COVID-19, which is unexpected, it will seriously impact the revenue, brand, and morale of the employees. Hence, the business continuity planning and disaster recovery is very key. So today we have esteemed panel with so many IT industry stalwarts to share their experience and views on how to establish good business continuity plan and disaster recovery. And in specific also, we would like to hear from them how the cloud is going to become a game changer in this whole BCP and DR. So let me now introduce one by one the industry stalwarts here. Subhajit Roy, Senior Vice President and CAO, SBI Mutual Fund. Then I have Sachin Jain, CIO and CISO eValue Sir. Jay Prakash Sharma, Executive Vice President, Technology Operations, Info Edge India. KV Deepu, President, Operations and Customer Experience, Bajaj Allianz. Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CTO, Batliwala and Karani Securities. Siva Subramaniam, I am Global CIO, VA Tech, Wabog. Navin Gulati, CIO, Girnar Soft. Sanjeev Jain, CIO, Integrion. R. Chandran, CIO, Bhavan Cybertech. Kushal Varshini, CTO, Vincent Infrastructure. Mahariyar Patel, Group CIO, Jina and Company. Deepak Kalamkar, AVP Infrastructure and CSO, Paygate India, SafeXpay. Niranjan Ramkrishnan, CEO, Myla Connect. Girish Sharma from NTT, he is product line head cloud services. Prashant Singh, he is a group head IT. Vikrant Auto Suspension, Vikrant Group. So thank you so much, friends, for joining this very interesting discussion. So let me start my panel discussion with Mukesh Mehta and others, whoever are there here. Mukesh, can you please define what is new normal? And we are talking about digital economy. We are talking about fourth industrial revolution. Now we are all experiencing COVID-19. So people started working in remote places. So what do you think, how we define this new normal for the business entities? Dr. Mukesh, could you please share some of your thoughts?
Typically, when we discuss about the new normal, we always say this is something which is after the crisis or during the crisis, or the things which are going to change forever with the changes which is unprecedented or which is never planned. So those things becoming which we never planned is becoming a routine and becoming a normal. So this is something what happened during last now it's almost a year plus. So we never thought of the pandemic, we never heard the COVID, we never heard the corona and all those things, and all of a sudden the things have changed left, right, center. So that is what we keep on discussing the new normal, because this was never planned. When you see the new normal, it is applicable everywhere. Everywhere is in all part of life, whether it's a technology, whether it's operation, whether it's a personal life, whether it's your day-to-day routine. So everywhere your new normal comes into picture. When we talk about the technology, when we talk about the digital economy, the industrial revolution, what we say 4.0, how the changes has happened due to the COVID. Few things which has happened immediately is that we were never prepared for a complete end-to-end VPN and remote for the team and entire office. It happened entire things. Like in our organization, the VPN was used by IT people occasionally, very few times in a month itself. We never had a licenses of 20 or plus only, and we never had a licenses for entire thing. So it changed everything. When you talk about the digital economy, people had money in the pocket, but they cannot pass it, they cannot do the business, and everything becoming online and everything. So this has changed the entire economy, everything. All of a sudden, the contactless payment becomes a new part of life actually. We never thought that 2 years back, 1.5 years, that the contactless payment will become such an integral part of our day-to-day life. So this thing happened, entire thing become a new normal. Your industrial revolutions become industrial changes become this thing, main changes. Everybody started focusing on IoT because of the safety measure, because of the entire thing. So the situation was, whether it's a technology, whether it's an industry, whether it's a operation, IT operations, people cannot reach their location. They are available to work, but they cannot reach. So
Okay.
that is where the VPN came into picture, the IoT came into picture. Everything was focused on this entire new things happen. The remote happened, the distance, even in the education and all those things, distance learning becomes a new thing. We never thought the kids will be not going school for a
Yeah.
year. So everything that the new normal changed the entire life, each and every part, technology, your personal, your family wise, your entire. And this actually, I personally feel this has increased in the productivity also, because now we don't spend time on the travel, we don't need a time to move here and there.
Yeah, there are, I think, pros and cons, I'm sure. So that's good. Anybody wants to share any of their thoughts on this new normal? Any?
So if you ask me, yes, our new normal looks at a couple of pointers which are very, very important for all of us. So I will just summarize it into 4 to 5 very important points for all of us to look at. One is to, as a CIO, an organization needs to be ready for anything and everything today. So the new normal has made us prepared into a situation where you say that any situation arising out of what we faced for the last 1 year, you need to be prepared, number one. Number two, that is very important, is the setup and the architecture that you design for your company has now got to be necessary as a situation that your DR, your PCP, your cloud infrastructure, 24/7 availability of applications, communication services are there, and it is available to our users. Number three, collaboration platforms, which are very important for us to function when we are operating from anywhere. See, work from home situation is going to continue.
Yes.
But the same situation is that you will have some staff which will be required to come back to office or operate from office, say probably 20 to 30% of your workforce, which will start operating from your office after
Right.
things come again regularizes. So I think the point is, wherever you are, the IT setup should be available to the employee.
Sure.
The fourth point, which is very important for us to understand, is your employees' health. Your employees' health is going to be the primary situation.
That is the new normal.
That is the new normal now.
Yes,
Because people
yeah.
have to be available. You're first in line, second in line, third in line. Business cannot stop.
Right, right.
I
Very
would
good.
see DR as a situation on employee as well.
Absolutely.
So I
Thanks,
just
Chandran.
summarize these VSR just
Excellent.
and
Yeah.
then we can take it up.
I think
This Chandy, let me
very quickly, sir. 30 seconds. If you
add
have.
on Mukesh, and in fact, these are practically, I can talk about the threats also. Possibly, if you say, I will talk later.
Yeah. Sure, sure. Okay. So I think I'm sure we baselined a new normal, and especially COVID-19 has redefined the normal and all. So we have been, I think, managing so many threats last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? And so many disasters also. Okay. But now, in this new normal, Subhajit Rai, I would like to request you to share your thoughts. After that, I request R. Chandran to share. So, what do you think the new disasters or new threats you see now and in future in this changed new normal? It's not like we just simply, like I think we talk about now employees. The employee health is very important. If somebody come to office and they got something, an infection, then it is a big threat for the organization. It is a disaster. If so many employees got into similar situation, it is a big disaster, right? We never planned that actually, right? So could you please share, Subhajit Rai? I will start with you, then I'll request R. Chandran, sir.
Yeah, thank you and good afternoon, everybody. Because situation is so different since last 1 year, I think my personal view is we should look at in maybe not, because most of the time we're talking from the corporate angle, corporate viewpoint. So we should look at the globe as a whole. Like one of the biggest challenges or reality was going to happen is the climate change, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Which we are seeing that, okay, and with the climate change you can see a lot of other changes happening. So this is one of the, I believe, one of the manifestation. Still we are not sure this is whether it's a man-made disaster or is a natural disaster, but going forward I think this climate change and so many other changes are going to be upon us. So I think this I don't know, it's slightly philosophical, it may not be very contextual, like how the nature will take revenge or come back to its own place. So that's one of the my mindset goes to that, as when you asked me the first question, because we know of all the traditional questions and answers of the current disaster and all things. So was prepared. So I think we have to look at the bigger picture. Like today we are taking the climate change, the warming of the globe, and how the water level is going to rise. So we should factor this lot of things. So I think on the hindsight, this kind of a remote working, I personally feel it is like a huge benefit from that people need not travel to office, because it's a huge saving and other things on the earth by saving the petroleum, congestion, traffic jam. So that's that entire energy saving. So that's I think one of the positive sides. So now your question is that, we are prepared. We have been prepared. Now we had a lot of things we are unknown. We came to us, which we are not prepared most of time. But now I think over the last 10 years, this disaster aspect has been taken care of one of the companies. And so another thing I think is coming change is looking at this as a more of a risk management now, not IT operations, IT management. So that's the thing in our company I have seen those 5-6 years. I think most of the companies today, IT and risk management is coming more of into play.
Sure.
Company should need to look from the risk management side, not purely IT side.
Okay. Thank you, Subhajit Rai. I think you clearly mentioned climate change. I think, as you said, nature wants to take a revenge or nature wants to have independence. I'm sure. I think we are the guests here. I think enough we have done, it seems, as you rightly said. It is human made, in my view, maybe 70%. So certainly that is the biggest threat, not just for the businesses, for the whole, I think, world. Chandran sir, so could you please share in this new normal? I think Subhajit Rai clearly mentioned climate change, the global warming, and the other threat, what I foresee is employees working from home. Statistics says working from home always creates some psychological issues also. That is another threat what I foresee. Well, there is a positivity. So could you place your thoughts there?
Being IT services company, because most of the people are working as CIOs of manufacturing and other companies. I am from IT services company. And exactly on March 22nd, when COVID hit and they said that people have to work from home, and I was given just a day to make everybody work from home, which we did. But one thing that was a major threat was continuity of business operations. Whether everybody was thinking whether the business operations is going to be the same. Because people are going to work from home, it is not only in Chennai, but they are going to be all around the world. It's not because we are people in Delhi, Bombay, as well as abroad, everywhere, even Middle East, etc. And there are entire world, people and people have to work. And what you are mentioning is the threat was people psychologically were getting affected. Is because they don't have the office atmosphere. They are talking and most of the time what happens is more and psychological. They get into the family matters, and those are things which keep coming, and they don't know what to do. And these are things which we have to constantly. What we have done is specifically in this case, each of the managers have been specified that they have to be in constant touch with their employees, and they have to have a practically every day they have to keep talking to the people and telling them, saying that this is as if the office atmosphere is created.
Sure.
This is why continuation of business operations. This is on the personal side.
Okay.
On the technical side, we have to keep the resources working. Like for example, VPN, high-speed internet, because that is most important. People are going into remote places where many a times even internet doesn't work. We have to take care of that. Those are things which is happening. And then we have to ensure all resources are available, and not that everybody is working remote, as Mr. Dr. Mukesh was mentioning. We have to keep our people also in office. Because the infrastructure people have to be in office to ensure that everything is working. Your firewall is working, all these things, they have to keep working round the clock. These are things which is, that's a major threat which happens. And then we have to keep employees online, always. That is a major threat happens, and if they cut, because since we are working with the customers in US, and you know the way the US customers behave, right. Even 5 minutes is a big loss. So these are things we have to keep them online. And we have to ensure constant communication. This is where the psychological aspects have to be done, because we have created a HR L&D division, learning and development division, which takes care of employees' communication, so that the employee is kept always in the best of moods. Those are things which have to be
okay. Thank you so much, Chandran. That's, I think, very good input. So I think now, in the past, we used to talk about when disasters or threats means maybe floods or some strikes or hurricanes or something different, right? Yes. So now we are talking about the threats like because of this pandemic, we are talking new threats. Yes. And we don't know what new disasters will come if this continue for a long time. So yes. The employee psychological issues is very important. I think risk we need to address. As you rightly said, the business operations should not be disrupted. Non-availability of resources. So what is the dependency of us on other countries also matters. Definitely. So if any other country says, sorry, we don't want to provide this, and gone, right? So I think we need to also look at that as a big threat in this connected world. Yes. So thank you so much. So Deepu and Jaiprakash Sharma, now any organization, once we define this is a new normal, and these are all the possible disasters considering this new normal, or possible risks, we can say, or threats, whatever we are forecasting. Based on that, what are all the assets and services in an organization which must be identified and managed to avoid or nullify or minimize the impact of these disasters? They could be technological assets, which are probably your IoT devices, your servers, your data center related, And also your services, the technology services, what you have been offering to your internal business executives must not be disrupted, right? Or to your external customers. So these assets and services perspective, can you share about what all these new assets got emerged? New services got emerged in this new normal, which must be safeguarded from the disasters.
Let me pick it up. This is Jay. As we most of the gentlemen said, during this COVID-19 implications, first priority for anyone, be it organization, be it self, be it people, the first thing is prioritize people safety and continuous engagement. I think this is the foremost thing which we need to focus first, because once you have your people, then only you will be able to continue with your business. And certainly, so people is one of the aspects, and the way we are talking about working from anywhere, distributed workforce. Trust me, now every organization has to start looking for distributed workforce, because earlier it was mainly people used to come to office, and those offices may be specifically located on a tier 1 or a tier 2 city. But today that is not the case. It could be a person connecting from anywhere, be it Amazons of Africa. Till the time connectivity is there. So you need to ensure people are there, and your connectivity is certainly need to be, infrastructure need to be available, so that you can make the people, bring the people online, get connected. And accordingly, you need to reshape your strategy for business continuity. So it is not about the way we used to think earlier. I think somebody has said already that just 10 licenses of VPN or maybe 120 licenses of VPN used to fulfill the organization technology need to connect work from remote or remote working or work from anywhere kind of stuff. Today, every employee, I think for every individual, be it a technology person, be it a non-tech, HR, finance, anyone, everybody needs the connectivity. Everybody needs to communicate regularly towards the business activity.
Sure.
Hence, the reshaping strategy is need to be there. So reshaping strategy on people is the first and the foremost thing. Second thing, certainly it goes on the technical assets. And then, maybe I will put it the third one as in skill development, because slowly, for the existing skills, for very simple reasons, why I'm picking out on skills is because might be finance folks are very good on books, on financial terminology, jargons and stuff. Similarly, technology folks are. But when finance folks needs to collaborate with rest of the world via a technological bridge, that's where the skill need to be developed.
Sure. Thank you, Jay Prakash. That's great.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. So I think you emphasized a very important point. Most of the organizations, probably traditional organizations, may not consider the people as the asset. But knowledge economy, I think knowledge industry is always considered, because they're dependent on people. But if you take some other industries where machines and equipment could be the biggest assets. So people, very important asset. And then you talk about connectivity. Then you talk about the infrastructure. It may include your data center, servers, and even now today IoT devices, whatever. So all those things needs to be safeguarded from the disasters very carefully, right? That's a very important point to emphasize. And strategies need to be revisited. Deepu, can you also touch upon what new services you think the technology organizations devised? I think you talk very passionately about, we introduced chatbots, we introduced virtual assistants, we introduced immersive experience and all. Internally, what are all the services you introduced in such a way your business is successful? And of course, to the external guys. So how you safeguard those services? Did you capture them And in our disaster recovery and business continuity plan, these are all the services we need to safeguard so that our business operations will not be disrupted. Very quickly, please.
Yeah.
We are running short of 5 minutes.
Absolutely. No, VSR, I think a very appropriate question, and I think Jay covered the entire spectrum, so I'll keep it crisp. Firstly, VSR, BCPs didn't work when COVID-19 happened, because this was something which we were completely unprepared for. So we had to redraw our entire BCP from scratch. Now the good thing is we were preparing for this. We were preparing for a scenario where everybody would have to work from home, and I think that helped. So when the lockdown happened, we were completely prepared. So the entire set of assets, I think, was covered very nicely by Jay in terms of, like you said, people, connectivity, hardware, software, all the services that we had. Internally, the way we went about it, one was, of course, in terms of first assets, we moved from, desktops to laptops, and where people continue to desktops, how do we make them Wi-Fi enabled that they could work from home? So that was one. Second was ensuring that people had access to our software from outside home, because very often you have restricted access outside home. So that was the second thing that we did. Third was, timely, intervention of some software. For example, our middleware, CRM, we introduced a new one, so that people could access our customer-facing assets from home. The earlier one, did not allow that. That was the third one.
These are all the new services.
Yes. And the fourth one was cybersecurity, VSR. Very important. I leave it at that. Since we are running short on time, I'll just leave it at this.
Excellent. That's good. I think we very well, Jay and yourself summarized, unless we identify the assets and the services which must be safeguarded from the risks or the threats or disasters, I think whatever the plan we do, it is probably not really effective. So now I would like to understand from Meher here and Naveen Gulati. So, okay, we identified now technology assets, like our friends talk about connectivity, infrastructure, people, and then desktop as a service, so on and so forth. But ultimate goal of our technology experts is to help the business people, right? And ultimately the business operations, what the business units and business executives have been running, it should not be disrupted. So could you please share your thoughts how we map these technology assets and technology services with the business operations so that these things are always up and running, so my business operations will not be impacted. End of the day, that's our whole goal, right? So could you please share your thoughts, the mapping between these technology assets, technology services with business operations?
Yeah, so yes, sir, I think you touched on the very right point. So I just tell you an example what we did as an organization. We looked at preparing to operate on a situation like this. We minutely documented not only IT situations, but also operations, finance, especially in the supply chain, we cater to customers. So obviously our need is to see that all our operational as well as tech capabilities are ready to operate for all our customers. So when we say that we operate on a standard operating procedures, it is the do's and don'ts and the points that are minutely recorded in a branch level situation, in a product level situation. So all those is something which we continuously monitor and also do an updation, because it will require updation. Whatever SOPs we prepared last year, we went for a updation this year because there are certain things which changed.
Right.
If you look at the situation earlier, when we operated from work from home, everybody was given laptops and everybody had to move, especially if laptops are not available, move with your existing desktops and start operating. Now the situation what we are working on is a long-time situation. Can we provide laptop for a situation on a lease rental model so that the cost is not upfront for an organization today?
Right.
Look at the planning, which is going to be very, very important, how to operate, that is very, very important. Identifying assets is not the only thing. You need to move that your services are available 100% at any given moment of time. The second point and third, I will just mention VSR very quickly, is that today we are in a BCP solution. We are in a business continuity plan mode at this moment of time. It is tested and proven situation that we are ready, and every company today is working in that situation.
Right.
Third point, which is very important, is that when we talk about DR setups, these DR setups are the most important thing for every organization today. And we identify the most needed applications. They have to be running as a DR as a facility. And there is no seconding to it. And I'm sure the board and the management will provide all the budget and the required monetary support to enable your organization best fit for IT enablement.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I am curious to know, Naveen, we have been working in technology space. So do you think there is a proper mapping of is there any way the process is defined or template is defined? If this asset is down, this part of the operations will be impacted. Or if this service of the technology is down, then this part of the operations will be impacted. So is there any mapping matrix you think the organizations have been doing, or if not doing, what do you think, how it should be done?
Get a very right question, VSR. And let me directly come to an example, right? When we speak today of a new normal, same ways technology internally has also structured quite exhaustively to adapt to new normals. For us, for example, the same DR or a same BCP strategy that works for a transactional system, it doesn't work for an AI system. Today, when we talk to our business analytics teams, guys who are data scientists working on AI and ML models, right, their BCP and DR strategy is entirely different. Say for a transactional or for my ERP team, to my supply chain team, if I give them a data which is 1 month old, it's of no use. You can't lose those transactions once which you had backed up, right? But AI team has a very different requirement. They want backups, or they want their DR strategy for their knowledge models, for their training data. Say the training data got corrupt 3 weeks back. They want the training data which was there at 4 weeks back, right? So the same BCP strategy doesn't work for a different team.
It's an excellent variance, yeah.
And that's why mapping processes to the DR strategy is very important. You cannot have one approach that fits all, right? Working closely with the tech teams, understanding their way of working, especially on teams which are working now on newer processes. Say chatbots, for example. Now chatbots require a lot of interactive data to train their ML models. If you look at the data today, right, the entire thing
is a big disaster, yeah.
And that huge, not only it's a huge investment in terms of cost, because data scientists today are pretty expensive, right, on a payroll, but also the time that you lose. It takes good 4 to 6 months to tune in any NLP model. And say if your training data is lost, what do you do then? Right, you are 6 months behind the competition, behind everything, right? So, again, resonating with your point, it's very important to map assets to your business services and then have the right strategy.
Now I'm getting an idea. If suppose the algorithms behaving different, it caused a lot of loss to customers.
Right.
Then that's the biggest disaster, right? I mean, if algorithms are acting smart, then dangerous, right? That itself is a big disaster, I mean, in my view.
Right.
Okay, so
we have had a case where the data scientist team came back to us and said, same algo was working fine 6 weeks back. I don't know what happened. I need the same data set that was there 6 weeks ago. I want to see whether my data is corrupt or there's something more tuning that we need to do.
Right. Thank you so much. I think so. We all agree that there must be a mapping matrix between the technology assets, technology services. Now, like Deepu mentioned, the services are very, very different from what we have been offering to the business and the external customers and all. So, and also the new assets getting added. The data is the biggest asset. And like I think Jaiprakash also said, connectivity, whatever the other things are there. So, I think mapping that is a very important thing. Now, let me get into Sachin Jain and Sanjeev Jain would like to understand your view on. So last, I think this BCP or DR is not something new, right? So we have been doing for many years, many decades. But there might be an organization structure. We all do all this BCP, some test drives, or you call fire drills, whatever. And also some sort of mock tests and all those things we do. Do you expect in this new normal any structural changes, any new roles to be introduced, new responsibilities to be introduced, and KPIs have to be redesigned to define the success of BCP and DR? what you think? What is the structure, the responsibilities, roles, and KPIs today or in the past versus in this new normal, how they must be? Could you please share your thoughts?
Yeah,
Sachin and Sanjeev.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. No, thanks, VSR, and hello, everyone. See, if we talk about our industry, and I mean, both Sanjeev and I come from IT-enabled services industry, and business continuity is something which is very important for our business, and it's an integral part of our business in such a way that even our the survival, the growth is actually dependent on such plans. And we have been doing, as you rightly said, some mock drills and some real life drills as well. And I think the scale of pandemic is something which is very new for us. But in past, some of the regional events, maybe such as maybe some forest fire in US or maybe in South America, or maybe some disruption because of some political events, again, in different parts of the world. Even in India, we had so many disruptions, even as simple as maybe some Baba getting arrested, and that is leading to some lockdown kind of a situation.
Yeah.
But I think the structure,
unique disaster.
Yeah, unique disaster. And the funny thing is that whenever these things are happening, our clients are also keeping tab on it. And they come back and check with us that the situation has happened, and then again they check the safety of people, and then they try to understand the process. They also try to understand how technology is supporting your business continuity. And this is like this ongoing activity for us for the survival of our business. And that's where the involvement of management is actually sitting at a very high level, whether in terms of understanding all the processes, testing, investment. And that's why I said, well, fortunately, we come from the industry where the focus is actually very, very high. But I'm I'm familiar with many organizations where these things were very happening in a very reactive way.
Okay.
Where they were looking at the historical data before making any investment. And that happens. And that's, I think, the human psychology, where they say, oh, this thing has not happened ever. Why do you want to invest in that direction?
Right.
And I'm sure when people were doing threat assessments, pandemic was always there on the list.
Yeah.
But I think, as you rightly also picked up in the beginning, people look at some of the very common threats like earthquake, fire, flood, but they never look at or probably maybe before 2020, nobody looked at pandemic so seriously.
Right.
And even they looked at, even if they looked at probably maybe in a isolation. Maybe something is happening in Africa or something is happening in maybe in South America, but nobody imagined the scale of this pandemic.
Sure.
And I think that has disrupted almost, I think, all the industry. I think Mariar picked up very well that and people probably had that BCP plans. People probably would have done some sort of business impact assessment also. But the kind of investments now everybody is ready to make because they have seen this in their lifetime. They've seen the kind of impact. Yeah, it's a fighting for survival. Your growth, your profitability, your business, and question of your survival. I think these things will definitely become the talking point on the board table.
Yeah, that's great. Sanjeev, just in continuation to what Sachin said, do you see any new roles to be introduced or new KPIs to be introduced to measure the success of BCP or DR?
Yeah, so just to add to what Sachin said, since we both belongs to an IT as industry, and the impact is very high when it comes to any downtime or an outages, happens in our data center or any technology which fails. If I look at my KPIs today, the BCP or DR has always been part of my KPIs. It's just not for this year, but it's been happening for quite some time. Being in ISO 27001 company, if I look at, you talked about mapping metrics, right? There's something called BII, which is more on the documents, but are we really doing a practical, which we take it very seriously. So when I do a business impact analysis, this is not something we have done it recently, but we've been doing this for quite some time, where we map each and every IT services which are attached to a client. For an example, communication, right? If today my email communication goes down, what is the impact? Is it my client is going to be impacted? What is my next steps? Can I have an alternative solution? Now, these kind of mapping we have done quite well in advance.
Excellent.
And we've been very fortunate that, in almost 2.5 years back, we've started, moving to a hybrid environment where all our critical infrastructures have been running on a cloud, private cloud, and just to ensure that we have a business continuity, to our most of the clients. In fact, we've been audited by most of our clients every year, which also gives us, that, okay, how well prepared if there is a DR or a BCP scenario.
Okay.
And that has really helped, the last year when the COVID situation came into, the world pandemic, right? I think we were quite well prepared. We didn't have much issues.
Sure.
In just fraction of, a couple of weeks time, we could just switch over everything on a DR scenario.
Do you see we will have something like AI disaster recovery champions, or blockchain smart contract disaster recovery champions, or IoT devices, or robotics hacking? So probably robots are designed for something, but they are doing somebody hack and they're behaving different. So, and disrupting our business, for example, right? So do you see such type of any new roles to be introduced? Anybody can...
Yes, sir. I agree with that. I think some new roles within IT will definitely come up who will look at more seriously and from a future perspective. See, pandemic has happened in 1918 also, but I think we didn't carry forward the learnings and we didn't follow any learnings from that. So we were not prepared. Now, at least in this digital era, more information is being captured. So definitely new roles will come in technology sector as well as in HR side, because earlier our DR or BCP was confined to our workplace only.
Right.
Now it should be extended more towards people's side, like people's availability, people's well-being, connectivity at their home. I think many
Sure.
people have faced this bigger concern. Okay, you have provided the laptop, but on cellular data, people are not able to connect. So I think those things will change the perimeter for BCP and DR also.
Thank you, Kushal. Siva Subramanian and Deepak, could you please share, in this now, lot of discussion we had, what are all the new risks you foresee in the coming years, maybe year 1, year 2? So in the past, I think, we talk about Sachin and Sanjeev also, it's not like now the disasters are not like a traditional ones. The disasters, what will come, we don't know. Some of the things are very unexpected also, right? So what are the new risks did you identify in the recent past? And do you think any change is required in the disaster recovery tolerance limits, like RPO, okay, so recovery point objective or recovery time objective and all? So what do you see that the thresholds will change and the new risks will come? Subramanian and Deepak?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think, am I audible?
Perfect. Please go ahead.
So I think I'm the only odd man out who is joining this call through from the office. I'm able to see everybody's and the work from home. So the industry what I represent is basically the EPC industry.
Oh,
So
so site.
yeah. So no, not lots of things happen at the site, but still our HQ is fully operational with the 100% work from office, and we have seen the entire cycle, one full cycle. I think we have seen of how do you generally go from 100% work from our home, which was never even thought about in the dream also for this particular industry.
Right.
And we gradually moved from 20, 30, 40, 50, then 75 and 100%.
We are very happy to see that, because EPC is the lowest in the IT spend. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, now the trend is changing, so people are also, the management, thinking that we need to join OT and BT. So that is happening in the industry as well. There are lots of digital transformations happening across our industry. Coming back to the DR and the kind of things which I think as far as geography, as far as Chennai is concerned, I think it has seen various natural calamities and the man-made calamities and technology calamities also. now kind of things which is not in any of this category. So I think one of the main things which I think I've realized is that whatever we may say that we have a DR and we have RTOs, everything is defined. As long as the new entrant of in maybe in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, the new elephant called ransomware, if it is there, but we don't even know like how you will even retrieve from your DR. DR set has no meaning to it
They are
unless
Trojans.
you have unless you have a kind of physical media where you have something in the data is there in the physical media, which is again it's disconnected from the network. So that is one major things which I think we need to or everyone need to relook at it. Not from earlier we used to think about B2D backup and everything, but unless it is disconnected and kept it as like a backup copy, that is not going to be one. That is one major thing which I think is we have already seen and envisaged and we have even kind of faced. That is one. And second thing is like if you may have in one of the natural calamities, you may have a DR site, but reaching to your primary site to activate the DR site is again there is a connectivity. There is some kind of connectivity between this one and that one. That relationship between primary and DR that has to be taken in the kind of how do you handle even if you're not able to reach office or you're not able to power on your this one. So during the flood and the kind of floods, it has been mentioned. And obviously, when you may have a backup and the technologies keep changing, but you may have taken a backup, and unless you do a proper restore mechanism and you do proper drill, that is one again thing.
Sure.
And the major one of the other thing is just give 30 seconds. So the other thing is you need to have like so somebody mentioned, we also need to have a BCP and DR for the human resources. That is very critical and which is very important. You other things maybe you can define in terms of RPO and RTO, but unless you have a human resource which can do that perform the activities, it is going to be that is going to be you need to have a proper in this particular scenario in terms of COVID. We don't know who's going to be there tomorrow and who is not going to be there.
Right.
That is one important thing I think as an organization anybody need
Sure.
to look at it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think when you said connecting to the primary site to the disaster recovery site, I was working in Infosys long back where we used helicopters actually when there was a hurricane happened at Orissa. So that means you need to have some budget for even airlift in some situations. Thank you so much. Deepak, could you quickly share what is our view on any change required in this RPO and RTO in the new normal? What do you foresee? I think Deepak got.
I think he has just put a message. He's on a call from office.
All right. So Prashant, I think you joined. Maybe can I ask you this question? Prashant Singh, are you there? All right. All right.
So let me, Vyasar Garu, so let me put this point. See, RPO and RTO you can't define for kind of generalistic, but it has to be kind of the organization dependent, sector dependent, and it depends on who's your customer and what is the data you're holding it and what you can lose and what is the time you can afford. It depends on your business. So we can't generalize this RPO and RTO. So that is my view.
Absolutely. Agree. Yeah. So thank you so much, Subramaniam. So now let me come to Deepu, and then I'll talk to Dr. Mukesh Mehta also. Deepu, so what do you think? We have been talking about, I also worked with Indian IT industry. We passionately talk about ISOs, CMMI, People CMM. I worked with Tata, then we used to talk about Tata Business Excellence Model and all. But when it comes to the reality, all these processes, people feel they are overhead. Okay, somebody said, let me follow that. Or it's like a complacency or a compliance, whatever, right? So what do you feel? This how to reduce these impact of the disasters and what are the proactive measures to be taken, like ISO 27001, 27002, NFPA 1600, HIPAA, or ISO 22301, etc. So do you think they really help us to reduce the disasters? And what is the role of AI and ML and automation in the whole BCP and disaster recovery lifecycle management? We are talking about automation in many areas, but unfortunately, I have not seen too much of automation in the BCP and DR areas. So can you use AI and ML algorithms to predict this is the disaster going to come? Okay, this is what we have to take the actions or not. Yeah, please.
So yes, sir, you actually asked, I think 3 questions in one question. So let me just answer each one of them, one by one.
Yeah.
Firstly, yes, of course, these certifications, right? ISO or, any of the other certification standards that you mentioned. Of course, they do help because otherwise organizations don't have a baseline. I think what happened was COVID-19 was completely unprecedented, which is why I think, it led to a question of, any past model. But of course, they have obviously, helped, prior to COVID-19. Secondly, coming to your point around, how do we, reduce the impact of disasters? I think the key challenge, and I think one of the panelists, also touched upon that, the key challenge going forward is COVID-19 is not the last, black swan event that we have seen. There will be many more like this, which we can't predict. But the expectation is that you have to be completely prepared with the response, be it your customers, be it your partners, be it your employees, for an event which you don't know in what form or shape will happen. So I think that is clearly, the challenge. Now, the way to mitigate that, and you touched upon AI ML, of course, AI ML play a role. So, for example, even today, when you look at cybersecurity, if you look at increased threat of frauds, right? We have leveraged AI ML in a big way to look at pattern analytics. But we don't talk about it because obviously, we can't be, sharing our secret sauce because, it could lead to an increase. So clearly, we have leveraged, and because everything today is digital, be it the form in which data comes, be it all our processes, so we have far more data and we've been able to leverage, these algorithms in a big way. Now, coming to how do we, mitigate the impact of disasters? I think while we do all of this, one angle we forget is human beings, because most mistakes have happened due to negligence. So I think clearly, in terms of training people and, raising awareness, I think is one dimension. The second, of course, the standard set of solutions, right? Ensuring that we don't ignore any small flag, moving from intuitive thinking to deliberate thinking, of course, having something like a very, very simple checklist, and of course, frequent testing. Now, testing not only physically, but even scenarios.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Deepu. Dr. Mukesh, do you think, today we have so many predictive models are being developed even for a pandemic, whether right or wrong. Some of the things are right and some of the things are wrong. Somebody say third wave, fourth wave, and it will come up with some estimations and all. So do you think in the business perspective, where artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms can be helpful for us to predict the future disasters so that we can take some preventive steps?
I think we need to define the disaster in a 2-way. One is a technology disaster and second is a disaster beyond the technology. So when we talk about the technology disaster today, I don't see that technology disaster happening because everywhere we have a redundancy, whether on the infrastructure side, on the telco side, on everywhere we name the things, and now many things are on the cloud also. So people have a DR on the cloud also. So those things are technology disaster is almost taken care of. Yes, like Shiva said, where RTO, RPO, these are industry defined, but what we need to do from a disaster point of view, or is that PPT, what we discussed or what we have been, that the failure will be either from the process or the policies or the people training actually. So those are the things we need to look into it. That is the biggest failure point. The predictive analysis or AI ML and all those things do definitely help, and we keep on adding the test cases. The more data we have, the more actually we have. So we keep on adding the data. This happens and this will help us. But the more important, the emphasis has to be there on the PPT part, the people, the process, the policies, and the training part or the technology part. That is where we need to control it. Whether it is a second wave, third wave, fourth wave, if these things are in control, then you are done. Yes, we can have a challenge like people are not available in office. We have to airlift them, but then either it is a complete collapse or it is everything is working fine. Now we have reached that stage actually. So the entire DR part or the RTO, RPO part has to be completely redefined. I don't think the 5 years back what definitions we were having today they will stand. And with the pandemic things, then the books has to be rewritten actually.
Sure.
I don't think what 2010 or 2008 or 12 when the cloud started the journey, those definitions need to be rewritten for the DR also. Because today Actually, we don't need a DR. Everything is on a cloud, and if something is down, like mailing solution, whether it's O365 or Google Set or anything, if it is down, it is complete down globally. You don't have a control in yourself. So
Sure.
that is where you need to have a entire definitions has to be rewritten.
So can anybody answer, do you think you need to have an automated systems to collect data from external agencies, whether it is a weather data, whether it is some satellite information, or whether it is pandemic information now, or it is a risk information about a particular country, there might be some riots happening and all. So do you see anybody is doing such type of analysis in your view, where the data points from third parties you are collating and then predicting it?
In our research, we do a lot of equity research. So we keep on doing the entire thing, but that is more from the market perspective, more from the equities perspective.
Correct.
Not taken care of the riot or the thing, but we do take care these external situation, how it can impact a particular industry or a particular company. But again, I'm telling you, we do it with our research team, do it from the research point or the equities point of view, and we have a lot of data.
Sure.
We had a complete automation data, and I have around 10,000 incidents covered with per day during the market hours actually.
Okay. So I think the similar analysis probably
I will answer your question. One thing is very interesting. We always look at, if you say Madras weather system, the government weather system, it never gives the right data. But we have a Tamil Nadu weatherman. This guy is a private individual who collects data from various sources, and he gives the correct data. Whatever he says to the next minute, everything is proper about weather.
Super.
So that is the kind of thing which happens. So this is the Tamil Nadu weatherman.
Sure.
I think it should be there everywhere.
I think
Currently, he is an IT software engineer.
Yes.
Yes, sir. I just want to share three examples. So one, I think you already mentioned regarding country-related data. So if we take pandemic as an example, I think in Wuhan there are a couple of doctors who acted as a whistleblower and try to, you can say, highlight this to the external world, but they were suppressed. Had it been maybe using blockchain or some other medium, if we are exchanging the data globally, particularly into the medical sector, we could have taken very, very early steps, and we could have contained that in Wuhan itself. It might not have spread across the world. So I think their data collection, collaboration, and MLAI could have played a very vital role. That is point one. Point two, I think from a vaccination perspective. See, earlier vaccine used to take 5 years, 10 years time we used to take any development for any vaccination. But I think this is the fastest possible time, and I think technology played a crucial role, very important role, including MLAI, in such a fast development of vaccine.
Absolutely.
So that is very critical. So definitely going forward, be it blockchain, MLAI, this is going to play a very critical role. I'd like to share one example from my industry. So we are into renewable energy sector. So renewable energy sector, we are monitoring data from weather, different like IMD, weather websites. We are actually also collaborating data from our near same zones. So like if I'm having rooftop sites in Delhi region, right? So my one site is performing better, but other site is not performing better. So we analyze all those kind of data, and manually analyzing all those things, it's a cumbersome exercise. We focus on doing all this through MLAI algorithm basis.
Sure. Excellent. I think that's what I think we need to also, we are talking about autonomous or automation in different processes. I think BCP also, DR is also a process. I think we need to really look at the policies, whether blockchain enabled policies, you will put it as a smart contracts and AI/ML algorithm. It might take a decade, it's okay. But the journey has to begin now. I think that's a very important point. I think Kushal, anyhow, you started, now let us continue. So there are so many disaster recovery plans are there. Okay, BCP is one aspect. And when the real disaster happens also, so what do you think these mock tests, whatever happening today, are they really effective? Whatever the disaster recovery plans you have. And then when the disaster happens, how do you think the incidents are managed properly? Do you have the system today effectively established? And most importantly, the emotions of the people. I mean, when the disaster is there, people emotions very important, especially few of the disasters. So I request Kushal and Niranjan Ramakrishnan to share their thoughts here.
So VSR, earlier I mentioned regarding 1918 disaster. let's take a recent example. Last year, COVID-19 wave 1. What we have learned, if we would have taken our learnings properly, we would not have entered into the COVID-19 wave 2 in India.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have not done that. And whatever disaster recovery plans we have made in our organizations, or even at government or at country level, those all are very local or regional in nature. No one has ever designed a disaster recovery plan keeping in mind a global pandemic or such a wide level kind of thing, right? And in terms of funding wise, I think people are struggling in terms of having contingency funds, right, to fuel their business growth. So I think a lot more. Some of my fellow panelists, they already shared or emphasized on human behavioral training, because earlier government was doing the advertisement part, break the chain, but people are not listening. Still, people are not listening, and then we are. So this is impacting. So many workplaces we see many people in our workplaces also, like people are coming and without masks, or they are not following the proper norms, and they are getting infected and they are spreading. They are acting as a super spreader, right? So there, I think MLAI can also play a very critical role. I think some people came up with solutions like the moment someone enters the building, your attendance will happen without any touch. So it will be a video based, and they also see whether you are wearing a mask or not. You are properly wearing a mask or not. So if those kind of systems are in place at multiple places, not just workplace, but at different places also, because now people behavior is playing a very, very critical role to tackle this invisible disaster.
That is the biggest risk.
Yeah, that is the biggest risk, because earthquake, flood, these are visible disasters. This virus, it's not visible by the naked eye. So this is very, very critical. We have to focus on this. And I just want to raise 2 example and positive example. My current company, we are born in pandemic. We got incorporated on 22nd August 2020. In fact, we completed 5 acquisitions during pandemic only in last 6 months. Grown in turnover almost 300 crore plus, and next, the pipeline is very, very long. But from a preparedness perspective, my previous company also, where I have worked more than 3 years, all the employees were having laptops. From a VPN perspective, we were ready. The way we designed it, most of the things were either SaaS based, or all applications we focus a lot on MLAI. Like during this pandemic, we have generated the cleanest energy ever because of polluted air. So there are
that's a positive.
Yeah, that's a positive side, because I think everywhere we are always hearing out negative things, but I think there are
so many birds are coming out. I am seeing even surrounding my house, so many birds are coming, and morning I think we are getting some good music.
We are in jail and they are free.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kushal. Niranjan, very quickly, could you please also share your thoughts on the effectiveness of all this disaster recovery planning, execution? So, what do you think? And especially now in the COVID-19 disaster, do you think the disaster recovery plan? Of course, we unanimously agreed that they have not worked. But what do you think? How to improve the effectiveness of these disaster recovery plans and execution?
Thank you. So in fact, I wanted to really divide this into 2 parts. One, I generally represent a healthcare hospital sector. I've been there for 20 years with the hospital sector. Last 3 years with the dental manufacturing, industry. When it happened like last year, when I came back from US in the March, I don't think we were even thought about, DR or this kind of situation to happen, because manufacturing process means you need to be physically sitting in the office. You cannot really move the machines to home. And we also have another business for dental design, where we deal with like more 2 to 3 terabytes of data, going up and coming. Like with I don't think it was ever even possible for us to even think of doing it. And second thing is, even if we talk about basic, IT security or data security, generally like the way our past experience is, majority of the time it's because of the mistakes or user issues, right? So with a lot of discipline, you're trying to bring it within the premises. If you want to move people at home, at hotel facilities and all that, and then you still want to deal with a large amount of data, still you want to bring in the HIPAA compliance, you want to have the IT security. This is not something that you really like imagine. You cannot sit and do this remotely in Zoom call with all the management team, and then you cannot implement it, right? In fact, our teams had problem, even moving between NCR and Gurgaon region, because the border was closed and during that, different states were having their plans. They were not even able to put basic modern, kind of stuff in the hotels. So in fact, we hired hotels and all that, to put people and all that. But what happened with COVID too, we were technically prepared, but I think emotionally we become very weak. Because COVID-1, things were happening somewhere, even on CIO club groups. Somewhere in Africa it's happening, somewhere in Nagpur it's happening, as if, I'm secured, right? Whereas in COVID-2, it's like, it entered all our houses, right? A lot of our colleagues we lost and our friends, parents, siblings. So this is very emotional thing. And this time when the business team is asking for EBITDA or, everyday turnover and all that, people are not really, willing to really do that. So I think this time it's an emotional aspect, I would say, more than the technical preparedness that is really affecting. Honestly, I would really request, the whole industry should really hey, go slow on the business, take care of your people, get things settled, then you should really resume the business. Business will always, we can always take it together. So this time, technically, we are ready, but emotionally, we are not ready. So that's what I wanted to conclude, actually.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think you raised a very important point. So now let me request Girish, Meher here, and then Chandran, all three, if you could share very quickly. So we have been talking about disaster recovery. Now I think the disaster recovery as a service, that is the cloud, is playing a very vital role. Maybe our disaster center could be somebody, a third party cloud could be there, and to move there might be. So what do you think the process involved and some of the thoughts and experience in terms of the risks and issues moving from DR to DRAS or whatever? So, Girish, can you start that? Can you please share your thoughts on that?
It is true. Somebody clearly mentioned that the compliances were acting as a guideline for us. Is that a lot of time IT organizations ended up having DR side just as a compliance check as well. Of course, we never faced the kind of pushing situation as we are in, and that too for an elongated period. People in practice like us, like when I do presentations, I tell people that simple hardware failure is also a kind of disaster, although you manage it. Right? A security breach is also a kind of disaster, although you manage it. Similarly, a pandemic is also a kind of disaster. So IT organizations who were looking at processes, they never focus on from where the disaster will come, but they predict that from wherever it comes, how are we going to respond? And that's why I think very intelligently people put here that it is about people, processes, and how the entire spectrum is ready to respond to it.
Which is in my thought and mind at this moment is your partner association, partner working, and partner collaboration.
Okay.
I feel in these times of how we operate today, a strong partnership, especially at the cloud level, collaboration platform level, is going to be very, very important. I mean, do what you can do best and leave the rest to the partner who can provide you the services. Simple, easy and simple to operate that way.
Right.
Leave the best of the practices to the person who can provide you that services.
How do you trust them?
The services and uptimes to be as a percentage of 99.9% is going to be my critical factor because my business would demand that from me, right? So I think that is something for all of us to understand and say that working with a partner who is going to listen to you, who is going to also change for you, who's also going to innovate for you, is going to be a great milestone for you to achieve with a partner. So I feel building a strong relationships has to be maintained. It is the most critical factor because everybody will not give everything. Thank you, Isar.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the RPO or RTO, whatever you said, maybe the cloud, probably the centers might be more, I think, effective.
It's like saying to work with a known devil than an unknown one.
Yeah.
And then you need to mold yourself with the partner, right? Because
absolutely.
It's like just moving to a new partner is not going to help you.
Yes. Yeah. Chandran, what do you think the cloud role?
You're mentioning about whether we can trust the partners, etc. This is the traditional thing which has been happening in India has been trying to move into cloud. In fact, I used to be a regular person called me in NASSCOM to talk against cloud. So that is the kind of thing which is there. But now, coming into the current things of ERP operations or whichever operations that are there, and the SaaS, PaaS, and infrastructure as a service, etc., that is all happening. In fact, cloud is a very good option, and especially with such kind of pandemics which is happening, cloud is an excellent option which you have to look at. And the main factors that are aiding you in trying to look at is escalating costs of infrastructure, which is what is happening. So it is better to have a DR in a cloud so that you can have a backup resilience in the cloud, because infrastructure is deteriorating as years go by. But if it is in a cloud, I don't have to worry about deterioration of the cloud. The only thing is it's the connectivity which we have to look at. But now with the robust connectivity, backup resilience is very good. So you should be able to do that.
Perfect.
And then storage capacity. You can have excellent storage capacity, which is there in cloud, and you can pay per use. It is not necessary that you have to pay upfront. Although it might be, on the whole run, it might cost slightly more, but it's better because you are going to cost only, pay only what you are using. And recovery speed is very, very high, which is what you have to look at, because sometimes if the infrastructure becomes slow, you cannot recover things, etc.
It's scalable.
So, and cost of moving to cloud is flexible and scalable. It's not necessary I have to have so much. I can specify the space, and as Maria had said, if the right partner is there, we can go for the actual thing and start small and go big. That is the kind of thing which you have to look at. And the benefits are, we can fail over in minutes.
That's the speed,
Backup is rush to resolve. We can rush and resolve, and then later try to do whatever that is possible.
Excellent.
That's what it is.
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful points. I think it gives a lot of confidence that Sachin, could you please share your thoughts on what could be the cost implications if I think there is a business case is getting established that I think the cloud seems to be better and it is having a lot of advantages and all. So what could be the cost implications and risks while transitioning for the traditional DR to a cloud DR or DR as a service?
If I look at the investment in the DR, and I've been advocating this from last many years, that it is like a insurance policy. I mean, the way you pay for some of the insurances we have for our life, or maybe for our medical care, but we never look at that very seriously, and we try to look at maybe other ways. We try to go for some of these insurance just to get certain tax benefits.
Right.
And something similar happens, I think, before this pandemic, and even maybe some of the maybe localized disasters happened, maybe somewhere in the south, or maybe in the western part of our country, or maybe the northern part, which is prone to some of the earthquakes. Some of these investments were obviously to address certain risk, but the kind of quantum, kind of maybe the repercussions which it can have, I think nobody realized that after this pandemic. I think people are looking at that seriously. These things can happen, and they are ready to invest cost. But if you look at the traditional models, I think they are very, very cost-heavy models, and that was one of the reasons which was keeping some of the organizations away from moving to a full-blown DR. And
the capital
some of the
expenditure is high.
But and I know some of the organizations had DR capabilities for maybe a smaller part of their business, which was more towards just to continue for their survival, or maybe just to keep that brand alive. But after the introduction of cloud, I think there is a lot of flexibility. I think somebody's already pointed out. I think Dr. Mukesh Mehta mentioned that that in terms of, let's say, some of the collaboration systems, they're already in the cloud. And if you look at the consumerization of some of these platforms, I think you don't need to really bother about these. But when you look at some of your applications, your actual business need, I think you now have a greater flexibility and agility in form of a cloud, where your costs are also managed. You don't have to invest right up front. You don't have to worry about
operational costs.
Skill set. Yeah, you don't have to worry about hiring people also. I mean, before this pandemic, I mean, obviously right now we are in a state of that disaster and the business continuity is on. But before that, if let's say if you had a DR site, how many times you were bringing it live, how many times you were testing, and if you have people who are actually working on it full time, then that's a cost. So that's a manpower, whether it's your technology cost, and I think all of these costs, if you put together, the bill was coming to be very, very high, and that's where I think cloud is playing an important role, where you can just switch in minutes, and the cost is also, as I think Mr. Chandra mentioned, is pay per use, and most of the time you have to actually pay when you realize those benefits, when you actually switch over.
Okay, thank you, Sachin. Girish, what is your view on moving from the traditional DR to a cloud? Okay, usually the cloud services, if it is a short term, people are very much happy. Spending monthly is good, but if it is something like very long term, sometimes the ROI might not be there. So, what is your view on the cost implications in the short term and long term, transitioning from DR to disaster recovery as a service? Girish.
Correct. So thank you, Mr. VSR. Firstly, it's a very valid point that while even doing a DR, we do not deny the core point that our IT budgets, as as I said earlier, low cost DR became a currency because people thought that lesser investment should be there on the DR. But I think all I can tell you is, looking at the great volumes of DR, the cost of having a DR has come down because of cloud. That's one important thing. Second thing is not only having a DR as a service. We heard about so many things. I was hearing about algorithms during our discussion. How do we use a predictive method? That are we going to hit the DR? Are we having the right kind of RPO and RTO visible to us as a dashboard, right? So when we convert it as a DR as a service, we make sure that such dashboards are visible to you, so that not only you have a DR, you also have a continuous monitoring that what is the status in case you go for a DR. Secondly, I also heard about people, processes, and technology. So what happened when you convert it to a DR as a service, we also include DR drills so that you can test upon your people, processes, and technology entire combination to work for you in the event of DR. So for me, DR as a service means we are actually implementing something, we are doing continuous governance and monitoring of it, and we are also putting it to test though, so that it is actually coming into play. Sure. One of the beautiful things which has happened is, earlier we were talking about DR only to reduce cost as a low cost DR. Now people have become measured, and our fraternity is asking us for effective DR. So that's very important thing, that's why DR as a service has gone, sure, has got a lot of currency, for our customers right now.
Thank you so much, Girish. So my probably last question for the whole panel discussion to Jay Prakash, I want to talk to you about the DR strategy. What are the three things we need to factor if we consider from today to 3 years, the three important driving forces to be factored in our view? After that, I request Girish has done some work on that. I would like to request Girish also from NTT to share his views on what is the DR strategy going forward, how I think the organizations might get benefit. I think if we two can probably, with your two, probably we can conclude the session. So Jay Prakash, very quickly, what are the three driving forces for a better DR strategy?
So certainly, like I think somebody has mentioned, I think Sachin has mentioned already, like DR is kind of an insurance. It is your choice, like whether you want to take the term insurance or along with that you want to have the riders. So that depends on like how you want your DR strategy to be followed. So most of the smaller organizations, DR as a service is certainly a way to go because like you get a lot of flexibility in terms of like people, skills to manage, many other things like pay-per-use, many other things like which specifically control your cost per se. Because see, whenever we talk about anything as a service, cost is the main consideration. Trust me. Like I mean, maybe like people might get started with initially, but once they start seeing the monthly OPEX bill, at that particular time, like everybody becomes curious and they want to reduce it, optimize it.
Okay.
So optimization is certainly very important. You start small, focus on the core operations, start small, save money, and I think you need to be flexible in terms of what I call it, like reshape the strategy as per your business moves or business continues.
And predictions, probably. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Girish, do you want to share the DR strategy and how this disaster recovery as a service will play a game changer?
Yeah, so Jay rightly pointed it out when it comes to DR optimization, cost optimization also plays an important role. For us, the DR strategy on cloud has become such a way that we offer DR as a service, as an integrated service. At the same time, we use things like full DR to optimize on your cost, right? But at the same time, clubbing of automation with the DR and DR drills have put together, ensured that we have an effective DR. Although it is a cold DR, but the cost is optimized, you have got the right kind of governance and visibility into your DR. So I feel we have come a long way in the overall DR strategy, and with more organizations opting for it by the virtue of volume. Jay mentioned, as a service, your cost should all get optimized. So although it is a managed DR service, but the costs are much more optimized than before. If having an effective DR has become much more important than before. So both the sides are working, hand in hand together.
Okay.
Yes, sir. One point which is very important, as we said earlier, DR was for most important applications, most critical applications. I think now the situation is that everything has to be in DR and available. I think that mindset change itself is talking a lot about it.
Yeah. It's like
and rightly mentioned by Girish and Jay. I think that particular optimization that one needs to gauge and see whether critical applications will need 100% of your utilization, but a non-critical can always be scaled down, but always available on DR.
Absolutely.
That cannot be lost out as a point to be considered.
You may take more time, but they have to be recovered.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not like we can just leave it. I think, as you rightly said, the prioritization of which is mission critical, which is probably not mission critical, and strategizing that is very, very important. Any other points? Anyone want to share? The last.
Maybe we need to discuss about the people DR also, whether which type of people we need, whether we need them, or how much of the automations and the work from home you can share the resources, so that whether two people are working a 2 shift and one person work in a 1.5 shift. So the people management. Because this lockdown may continue for another 1 year or 6 months, do we really need a right people or all people? That's another point in the discussion table now.
Absolutely. I think that's very important point.
We already covered that, people, processes and technology, how the businesses will change. We covered about the pandemic challenges. Here is the thing, as we said, the disaster may come from any direction. So that's what strategy has been so far. So I have collated some past data which suggested that it can come from anywhere. So this is the concluding thing which we tell people, that when it comes to a DR strategy, all the 4 core pillars of your IT organization should be intact. You should have a cloud, either on premises, and what is your secondary option in the event of DR, how your networks are always available. The data continuity plan. So it is not only you have infrastructure ready, what is the overall data continuity plan, including people, processes, and technology. And last but not the least, I mentioned about security. So all the 4 core pillars form a DRs. Everybody is aware about the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud environment these days. So you can leverage them to optimize your overall DR strategy. But what we tell people is, when we look at DR as a service, all the 3 aspects, people, processes, and underlying disaster recovery strategy, or the technology which is underlying it, they have to be intact, and they would have been tested with the DR drill from an IT resilience perspective, because IT is right now at the core of the business, to address the DR. And entire business is dependent on IT, and that's a good thing as well as a great responsibility on all of us as IT fraternity. I think so. That's all from my side.
It's not only just the core business processes to take them to the autonomous state, what we are talking about. I think in automation plays a very vital role, and cloud plays a very vital role. Thank you so much. I think we covered what is new normal, and then what are all the new, I think, technology assets and services getting created in this new normal. How do you map them with the business operations so that effective plans can be done? And what is the new structure and roles and responsibilities KPIs required in this new era of DR and BCP? And we also talk about the preventive and predictive measures, technological, and also the global standards like ISO and NFPA, HIPAA, and something like that. So we touched upon now in the last part of our panel discussion, the disaster recovery, conventional way of doing it, and also moving to the cloud. What are the benefits and suggestions are there? So most importantly, human emotions and people assets. When we really getting into the disaster, what type of a disaster, it doesn't matter. So taking care of them is the most important thing. So thank you so much. I think very great inputs came out from all the industry stalwarts. I enjoyed this session.
Thank you. Thank you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.